I think this is my last moment chairing the Benefits and Services Committee. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm just, yeah, exactly. It's still sort of strange to get used to the changes on our dais. So anyway, so let's look at item 1 is approval of the committee agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to roll call? Thank you, Roland. Thank you for that whispering reminder. Let's do roll call, Roland.
Chairperson Hendricks, good morning. On behalf of the Treasurer, Mr. Boykin, on behalf of the Director of Finance, Ms. Ortega, Ms. Dillon,
Here.
representing the State Superintendent of Public Instructions, Ms. Zumont, the State Controller, Mr. Chang. Morning. Chairperson Hendricks, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. Item 1 is approval of our committee agenda.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Our committee agenda is approved. Item 2 is approval of our minutes from the April 2nd meeting.
I'll move approval.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. The minutes are approved. So Ed, talk to us about community colleges and part-time faculty.
Always happy to.
Yes.
Yeah, as many of you are probably aware that, we have I'd say about 15,000 part-time adjunct faculty in community college who are actually members of the defined benefit program. And even though it's a relatively small number, there are a number of challenges that we have faced and the faculty face in terms of their retirement, some of which are issues that actually CalSTRS has some connection to, but other issues aren't anything that CalSTRS has any control over. But back in 2009, in order to provide a venue to sort of vet those issues, we formed the part-time adult education faculty task force to meet on a periodic basis, sort of expose those issues and see what we can do to try to resolve them as best we can. And the task force met back in April to sort of discuss one primary issue that came up at the last few times that we had met, and that was to try to see if we could reconcile information that comes to the Chancellor's office with respect to the load responsibilities of the faculty to the information that's submitted to CalSTRS by the employer that becomes the basis of the service credit that part-time members get. There was a hope that they should be relatively in sync and might at least provide us some guidance about which districts perhaps we should look at more closely or need some better education in order to improve the reporting. Because the problem is what we have found is, at least in some districts, they don't report their full-time salary rate accurately to us for the part-timers, and therefore the service credit and their final compensation isn't accurate. And unfortunately, when we worked with the Chancellor's office with their data, we found that it really wasn't, it was not the panacea by any stretch of the imagination. There were just too many inconsistencies in the data that they had. It didn't reconcile with us. And I think what we found is there may be some information that we get out of that may be useful for us, but it isn't going to become the really valuable tool that we thought it would be. But what we did decide in terms of having that conversation, that we're going to look more closely at the contracts that the community colleges are now required to submit to us, that has to, under the law, identify what's called the full-time equivalent, which becomes the basis of their salary rate, their full-time salary rate, and try to reconcile that with the information that gets reported to us. So I think.
Can I just say, so
Sure.
that it's SB 114, right? That was the legislation that,
SB 114.
and basically, I know that some of our members have misunderstood that, but basically, that legislation just basically says that districts need to send that contract language
Yes,
to
it's
CalSTRS.
been the law for several years that they had to report in the contract what their full-time equivalent was, but there wasn't any requirement that we get the contract. SB 114 requires that we get the contract, which we do now get. So we'll use that information and then compare that to the information that's provided to us by the employer to see if that's fitting right. So we'll be moving forward with that. Some other issues that came up are issues that are sort of outside of CalSTRS' purview, in particular sick leave. When people change jobs from one district to another, they can take their sick leave with them and while they're to their new employer, and then when they retire, that unused sick leave gets converted to service credit. And there was a lot of discussions in some cases where members didn't realize they could take that with them, and they wanted us to do something about it. And quite honestly, that's an education issue that the employees and the employers have to take responsibility for is really outside of our purview, and some of the suggestions really weren't practical for us. But I think we got a better understanding, and certainly the faculty got a better understanding of what they need to do to try to improve that, as well as issues around understanding whether or not somebody's in cash balance or in defined benefit, or they're in some other alternative plan. So, I mean, we think that it was a valuable conversation. I think we got some takeaways from it. I think certainly the faculty and the employers who were there got some takeaways from it. And then we decided that we'd meet on a more regular basis each year, and we're going to meet again in October, and we can certainly provide an update to the committee after that in terms of what's going on. But in terms of this one particular issue, we just felt that, and I think everybody agreed with us, that it isn't going to be the valuable data set that we hoped it would be. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from members? I have a couple. Oh, let me go ahead and get Grant with your permission. Go ahead.
Ed, I was wondering, I didn't quite get it out of the memo, but load is, like if somebody's 50% time, their load is 50%. But
Right.
I just maybe haven't thought it through enough, but how does there become a discrepancy between the earnings that are reported and the load?
Well, what we found is that the load, that the service credit that people get may not only be just about their academic workload. It could also be office hours, a number of things that they get service credit for, but it wouldn't be reflected in their load. And what we have found is that the information the Chancellor's Office gets, in some cases, it's not really even identified who the person is. There's no Social Security number that we can check it against, and it's not accurate. And because it's not validated in any way by the Chancellor's Office, so it's just information that we just don't have any faith in. But in theory, I mean, if somebody is working at 50% load, they should get half a year of service credit, and that's what we were hoping would be the case. But we just found that the data isn't good enough to verify that that's in fact what's going on.
I see, thanks.
And I'll just jump in and then grab Paul. I think one of the issues, though, that I've seen part-timers complain about is, different districts calculate load differently. So an English faculty might, get 12 units in LACCD, but in a different district, that's recorded as a different load. And so I think the purpose, from my understanding of how the task force started back in '09, really has been the central issue that we haven't quite solved yet, which is making sure that part-time community college faculty get accurate service credit for the work performed each year. And that's still, I'll let you finish off with that later, but let me grab Paul and then Jack. So, Paul?
Thanks. Yeah, so I guess the question I have is, if the load that is reported to the Chancellor's Office is higher than the service credit that we're picking up, is there any reason to think that we're getting the wrong data, or could a member claim that we're not getting the wrong data and point to the Chancellor's Office data and say, look, you're not giving me enough service credit?
It's possible, and what we do on every year when they get their retirement progress report, identifies what their service credit is. We tell them if there's a discrepancy, if you don't think this is accurate, please see your employer. And now, because we have quite a number of people who work in multiple districts, we present to them how much their service credit is from each of their employers, so they can sort of pinpoint where it might be wrong. But we do provide a lot of information to the members of encouraging them, if it's not right, go see your employer.
And I do know, like the faculty advocates, those in the audience too, I know they really try and communicate to members, make sure you look at your annual, retirement report. And I will say, kudos to staff a couple years ago on when you check your annual statement, you can actually, for part-time faculty, you can actually click on a little link and it shows you how much service credit you earned in each of the districts that you worked in. So the term we use a lot in community colleges is frequent flyers. We have a lot of part-time faculty that drive, from LA to Ventura County to San Diego, and they're all over the place. And so I think that's some of the complexity of the service credit issue, is they're not working in one district, and then the districts having to report accurate information, because CalSTRS relies on the district information, and that's not always accurate. So
That's true.
Jack, did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple comments toward the end of your conversation. I think in watching this conversation progress over the years and thinking about it for you as the board, I'm not sure we've spent enough time with you really talking about this special part of the membership enough. I mean, when we talk about those statistics that we all can roll off our tongues, 71% female, average age retirement age 62, average benefit, all those things. Those statistics are all dwarfed by the K through 12 population, influencing those numbers that we say over and over again. So Ed and I have been we've been breaking out the membership, kind of looking at the comparisons and average salaries, ages, things like that. And I thought that'd be interesting in a later date, come back to you and show you kind of some differences in the population, so we appreciate those distinctions a little bit more, rather than just assuming that everyone it's all 71% female, all average age 62, all of this, all of that, when there are differences in career patterns in some areas, and then some might surprise you, as we've been kind of poking at the data. So if that would be an interest, I would suggest we do that, during the year.
I think that would be interesting, and it would be interesting to get the full-time, part-time community college breakout. And I'd be curious in K through 12, I don't know what the part-time, I assume it's not very large, but it'd be interesting to see part-time in K through 12 too. So.
Yeah,
But I will leave that to the new chair and vice chair of the Services and Benefits Committee, but I guess that'll be an information request for the next meeting. Any other questions from the committee? So I do really appreciate Ed and staff, and I think it's Tom Buffalo, thank you, Tom Buffalo, and the other folks, if they're watching, I really appreciate. There were a lot of staff at the last task force meeting and folks in the audience that were there. I appreciate CalSTRS taking time to focus on this area, because I do think that the demographic of part-time community college faculty is a small, percentage of our membership, but they just have a complexity of issues and challenges that I know you've worked with them a lot over the years, Ed, so I appreciate that. And I think the idea of having a standing, meeting once a year. I do appreciate, though, I think in the last meeting, one of the things I know a lot of us that work with that population are directing is it's important for us to figure out what CalSTRS can do and what they can't do. So I think with the unused sick leave issue and things like that, I know since I'm the board member on that task force, I want to encourage people, I know Maggie and other folks in the audience, Andrea, to encourage folks to kind of, when we meet in that task force, for us to focus on issues that CalSTRS can kind of solve the problem. And then I think, our different organizations need to do some hard work with districts to make sure that information is being reported correctly and that our members understand what they need to do with sick leave. And so I think that kind of figuring out who needs to do what is important, because the districts, the members and CalSTRS, I think, are the three entities, and we want to focus our time and energy in that meeting to things that you guys can actually change or do. Exactly. So with that, the last comment I'll make is, with this load issue, we haven't quite, so now we have districts required to send their contracts into CalSTRS so the CalSTRS can see the language. I guess I'm just wondering, what's the next step for us to try and get more accuracy about this reporting of service?
Well, I guess I'll sort of defer to Peggy and Peter. It's their area of responsibility. I think there's a lot more training that's going on than has in the past, and I think that seeing the discrepancies between the contracts and reporting, I think will give us some good keys as to perhaps which districts we need to pay more attention on. But perhaps Peggy wants to elaborate on that.
No, I think Ed just articulated it very well. Thank you. Anytime we start receiving data, then there's, an immediate expectation that results will come about, but it really requires us to create a process internally for how we're going to look at that data, how we're going to hierarchically take advantage of it, and how we'll be incorporating that into the workflow for our member account services staff. So, we're working through those processes now, and to the extent that we see discrepancies, we're able to go back to the employers and utilize that in our calculations of benefits for individuals to see if there, and a lot of the centers around, is there a 1586 impact, and 1586 isn't a magic number, other than that is the bill number for direction we got legislatively to look two different ways at how to calculate a retirement benefit for community college part-time faculty, and then give members the better of that calculation. And there are criterion that members must meet in order to be considered eligible for that duplicate calculation or that additional calculation. And so we're trying to figure out how we incorporate all of the information together so that we're making good benefit determinations, and we're getting back to employers if there are discrepancies that we see.
All right, so we'll look forward to October 9th. My understanding is we have a date set for the next part-time task force. I think it's in the
think it was
middle of
the
the week,
14th.
right? And so I would
Yeah, I'm not
imagine-
sure the specific date, but it's in October, I know,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Any other input? All right. Thank you, Ed. Thanks, Peggy. Going on to item 4 is our annual member satisfaction survey with Elisa.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to present the data and our insights from conducting the 2014 Member Satisfaction Survey. CalSTRS has been conducting this survey for 11 years, so we have some trend lines that cover that period of time. Every year, we try to expand and improve upon the research. The past 3 years, we've really delved into member engagement, and I'll talk about that. This year, we've also taken a very close look at the role of interactions and that relationship with member interactions with CalSTRS and member satisfaction and member engagement, and we'll talk about that too. I'm happy to take questions as we go along, and we can get started. I'm going to walk you through the data. If I can click. Oops. All right, you might need to help me. We advance.
It would appear that our batteries are not.
So it's not user error?
It's not user error. I mean, there's a button to push, and you pushed it, and it doesn't work.
Oh, or just user nervousness? Can somebody else click?
Now just be thankful you don't have a classroom with 35 kids that are all waiting for you.
This
to
has
do it.
happened to me before.
Thank you for your patience.
No worries.
You're good. It's all happened to us.
35 kids would be harder, right?
8th graders.
So while they're sorting
Yeah.
that out, can
Perfect.
we
If you
advance
can-
to the next slide?
Yeah, if you can click back there, I can just ask for the next slide until I can click. You can go to the next slide.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, perfect.
Got it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so this slide is just a little preview slide. I'm going to make you look at a lot of data-heavy slides, as you know, if you've heard me talk before. This is just the summary, and what I'm going to show you today, a lot of the data overall, most of the data is very, very stable, so we're going to see a lot of stable trend lines. Overall satisfaction is very stable, member engagement's very stable. There is going to be a focus area on timeliness of replies to my request. We've been watching this data point over the past couple years. We've had a downward trend line, and this year that item has popped up as significantly decreased, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. Oh, perfect, it clicks now. So this is the 11-year trend line of members' overall satisfaction with CalSTRS. And if you just look at that line across the slide, the data is very, very stable. We have had some points of significant change back in 2009. Again, in 2013, we have this significant increase to 67% of our members reporting that they're highly satisfied. That significant increase was maintained year over for 2014, and those numbers look very solid. The next couple slides, I'm going to continue to look at that measurement of overall satisfaction. This one looks at overall satisfaction by life stage. And again, the trend is very consistent. As members get older and closer to retirement, a bigger portion of them report being highly satisfied. It's consistent with what we know about our membership. As members get closer to retirement, they tend to increase their interactions with us. And really good news, interactions tend to be very positive, and you wind up with this trend towards higher satisfaction. This year, and I think this is the first time I've presented this here, this year we've really delved into the role of interactions, and we believe that members interacting with us is an important and positive thing, and we're trying to vet that out through the data. So what this slide shows is the responses divided into the low ratings, the highly satisfied ratings, and the mid-level ratings, and then the members divided into two groups. Those in teal are the ones that have interacted with us, and the ones in gray are the ones that have had no interaction. And when we look at deciding whether a member has interacted with us or not, we do that by if they've reported if they've had any interaction with us at all. So if they've read the newsletter or visited our website or made a phone call or come into a member service center. So any interaction at all, they wound up in the teal color. And what we see of those highly satisfied, significantly more of the highly satisfied folks have interacted with us.
So Lisa, you have, this might be next slides, you have it broken down by manner of of contact, is that,
I think
of
it's the
communication?
very next one. Do you want to
Okay.
see it now?
That's what I would ask if it wasn't there. But if
Okay, it's
there,
coming.
then I'll
It's-
hang out.
Perfect, it's coming. Just the last point on this slide. Those who haven't interacted with us are not highly dissatisfied. What you see over there in the 1 or 2 ratings, those are the folks who are not, they're not having any sort of satisfaction. Very, very small numbers there. Those who aren't interacting with us really fall into that neutral range of the 3 to 5 ratings. So let's go look at what those interactions look like. This slide, it's kind of busy, so I
Can I
apologize.
just ask one question?
Yes.
If they're not interacting with us, how are they responding to the isn't responding to the survey? Interacting with, I just thought of, it seems like that is an interaction, so, engagement, if you will, even to participate in the survey.
And so it's a very good point, right? And that gets to kind of a definition. And what we've actually been trying on some of our point of service surveys is knowing that if our surveys reached you, that is actually a point of contact. Mm-hmm. And then we're playing around with trying to, hey, thank you for taking our survey. Now maybe go to our website to learn more on a particular topic or check out our video. So we do realize that that actually is a connection. So, and you're right, and we're just drawing the line. It's a self-report of have you had one of these type of interactions. The fact that they're taking our survey means that they're definitely not, they're not ignoring us completely. So this slide talks about all different kinds of interactions that members might have. They're arranged from the group where the biggest percentage of the members are reporting that they've had this interaction. And so the reading our newsletter and visiting our websites and making a phone call remain the significant ways that people are interacting with us. There's 3 years of data there, and if you look on many of the interactions, which are seen as a decrease in the percentage of members who are reporting that they're reading our newsletter and visiting our websites, and even making phone calls is significantly down in 2014 compared to 12. We dug into this a little bit because we believe interactions are important, and we didn't want to conclude that, wow, are people overall interacting with us less? They're not. The total percent of members interacting with us is stable. It's just that the members who are interacting with us are not interacting with us through as many multiple methods.
Lisa, I have Dana with a question.
Yes.
So do you think that they are then gaining more confidence in the information they're gaining off the website? Any speculation about social media?
I can speculate. I don't have data to support because I didn't ask folks how they feel, like what their confidence level is. I believe that when we look at the data and when we overlay it with the report of satisfaction with our website. So we had that significant website redesign. And what we see is that people aren't doing as many things. So they're not going to the website and making a phone call. So I do believe that whether it's confidence or whether it's just resolution, or they even know where to go. So now they know, okay, for my personal information, I go to my CalSTRS, as opposed to for general information, I go to the .com. I believe that they're getting their information more succinctly. And I'm not quite sure if it's confidence or just ability to find it, or being able to kind of get it done at one spot and be finished, and not having to continue on.
Dana?
So although we can tell that they're using less means to contact us, it doesn't look like any of the means gained any ground. So it seems like if they were turning the website numbers would be up, but the website numbers are down.
And my CalSTRS is down.
And so
So it's interesting, and I'm not sure, and we could dig into it more if it's something that becomes a topic that everyone wants to know more about. I'm not sure, but when I look at, okay, my CalSTRS is down and the .com is down, I know how I am using the PERS websites is I know now that when I need to deal with my personal information, I go to that area. And when I'm just seeking general information or I have a question that I need to research, I go to the other area. So I know better how to do it. I don't necessarily think that people are visiting or interacting, having less. I just think they're being more efficient. Does that?
No, that makes a lot of sense, because I think that once you go, like maybe the first couple times you cruise the whole site, or you're not quite sure and you come back to it, and that the more familiar you get, the less that you're revisiting for the same issue. I get that. It was just interesting that all methods were down, but we know they're using multiple methods less. It seems like one would have gone up.
Well, and I guess what I would say too is visiting my CalSTRS. So that's something I tell every person, and Ed knows this. Any person that is a CalSTRS member and they talk to me, and I show them how to do it. And so I guess, this language says visited my CalSTRS. And so members, and I say, you can look at your annual report on my CalSTRS, and you can, do your one-time death beneficiary. And so I guess I have the same sort of question as if people are visiting my CalSTRS, that's a frequent, at least an annual, if not several times a year kind of thing. And so I guess, to me, you're like, I'm doing that, several times a year, every year until I retire. So I do have the kind of same question, I guess, is why would the numbers go down? Even if you're familiar with it and you know it, you're going to be continuing to visit and use it, so.
And you'll see this in October when we bring the member survey or the service measures to you, but more of our members are going online for some of the simpler transactions, and it could be that while they're going online, they're solving many problems or taking care of many business elements that they may have done repeat business with us in the past in order to get accomplished. So you'll see that we're increasing the uptake of electronic commerce that members must do through their MyCalSTRS accounts.
In addition, this survey question doesn't ask, it didn't address, did you come multiple times, or how many times did you use it? When I look at that visiting MyCalSTRS and I look at 55%, so that essentially says 55% of the members have visited this past year. So is there an opportunity? Sure, and it's great, right? In your recommendations, you would recommend 100% to come at least once a year, if not more, right? Okay.
Maybe what I'm saying is I would expect that number to be, I would like to see that number going up every year because I want more people to access their information online.
Okay. So this is a new question. We asked people this year, well, if you did have a particular interaction with us, what was the biggest reason that you either visited the website or made a phone call? So we didn't try to capture every reason that somebody might have called and tried to address three things. We to make the data usable, we just said, please tell us what was the significant reason you made your phone call. What were you looking for? And what we saw was that in visiting the websites and meeting with the counselors or coming to a workshop or visiting a counseling office, in general, the vast majority of people doing those things were seeking general information. And those who were seeking answers to their questions either called and talked with staff or sent a secure email. So clearly people are using, they're addressing their needs in different ways. Okay, I'm going to step away from that overall satisfaction measure and now look at more specific satisfaction data. This slide shows satisfaction with staff, and this data is very stable. Over the past 3 years, the numbers bump around a bit, and there's no significant changes. So we've got very good marks on things like courtesy, knowledge about CalSTRS, and having a caring attitude. Satisfaction with service also, in general, the data is very stable. We've got some ups and downs. This is where the timeliness of replies to my requests, we see that decline. It is statistically significant decline this year, which is why we've called it to attention. And on the next slide, I have just some kind of theoretical, not data-driven drivers, which would be nice to have, but putting together the data with what we know is happening in the organization, possible drivers of that reduction in scores. There may be a staffing or expertise issue. We know that many people are being called to work on projects, and we know that this is going to have a continuing impact as we move forward. Also, we believe that the issues are becoming more complex. The issues that are being addressed are becoming more complex. And that goes along with the theoretical idea that members are accessing our website for simple answers and for taking care of certain things for themselves. So when they come to staff, the issues tend to be more complex, and complex issues require longer to address and to resolve. This is satisfaction with our websites. I mentioned the website redesign that happened in 2013, and that year we saw a significant increase satisfaction with both My CalSTRS and the .com, and that significant increase was maintained this year. So I'm going to shift now from talking about satisfaction scores to talking about engagement. We introduced the concept of member engagement in 2012, and we introduced it because we thought long-term it would be a useful measurement to the organization. Engagement sets a higher standard than satisfaction, and it's a better predictor of behavior. The reason it predicts behavior better is because it includes a measurement of emotional attachment, and we just know data-wise that emotions drive future behavior in addition to our satisfaction with how products and services have been. In the upper corner, you see our engagement scores for 3 years over. Very, very stable. That measurement is, we see almost no change at this gross level. And in the lower corner, we've broken out, again, similar to what we did with satisfaction, we've broken out engagement by interaction. So if members have had any interaction with us at all, a significantly bigger portion of those folks are having the high levels of engagement. And this is engagement by life stage. Again, a similar pattern to what we see in satisfaction. As our members age, we do see engagement go up. We see a significant uptick in the 20 to 29-year-olds this year. Really kind of a nice surprise in the data, and we're going to watch that trend. A lot of effort has been made to reach this age group because it's important, as we, being engaged sooner is better. And we know that reaching this group is difficult. It's hard to get people to start thinking that far ahead of time. So the organization has made efforts to reach this population electronically and through different communication methods, and it looks like we're having a positive impact. So this is the trend line piecing apart those members who have interacted with us, and that's the top bar, and those members who have not, and then breaking it apart by age decile, and looking at the impact of interaction, or really the relationship between interaction and engagement. And what you can see is that at every age, those members who interact with us are having higher levels of engagement. So there's 15 attributes now that contribute to the engagement score. This slide and the next slide just show individual scores on those individual attributes. And the highest scoring attributes are CalSTRS shows me respect as an organization I can trust and cares about members like me. Trust is a very important concept that we track closely and pay attention to and address. The whole reason we track engagement is that we know that engaged members are more likely to take an active role in their retirement planning, and then we expect a more positive outcome for them. So there's significant increases year over in some of these attributes. You see a significant increase for respect, cares about members like me, and for the first time this year, we see a significant increase in operates in my best interest. This is the second half of those attributes. And again, for the first time this year, we see a significant increase in operates with transparency. Every year on the survey, we ask a couple questions about things that are really relevant. This year, we focused on member awareness of topics, both Pension II, and then on the next slide, I'll talk about the funding gap. Last year, we also asked about Pension II, and what we see year over is a significant increase in members' awareness of Pension II. So that speaks highly to the efforts that are being made, and I know that there's efforts that are continuing going forward. Participation in Pension II has remained stable year over, and I think that was not surprising data given the economic climate and the things that people are dealing with. Here's the awareness data on the funding gap. We asked members we asked everybody, are you aware of the funding gap? And 49% said, yes, we are. And then of those who reported that they were aware, we went on and asked them two additional questions. One was to rate their level of familiarity with the issues related to the funding gap, and 53% said that they were either moderately or very familiar with the specific issues. 32% said that they were aware of the funding strategies options submitted by CalSTRS to the legislature in February of 2013. We also asked members if they were aware that the responsibility to deal with the issues related to the funding gap resides solely with the governor and the legislature, and 38% said that they were aware of that. And that's really it. In summary, we've got a lot of stable data. The satisfaction measure is very stable, as well as engagement. I think we have very definitive data now that interacting with CalSTRS really makes a positive difference. We have an opportunity to address the timeliness of replies. And we've got a lot of information on members' awareness of data that can inform our communications and kind of direct us in terms of what's working and where we want to focus additional attention. That's all I have.
Any comments or questions from the committee? I wondered, I am assuming you've talked a little bit about how to address the timeliness issue, so I just wondered if you might talk about that a little bit, like how are we trying to get those numbers back up?
One of the key factors on the timeliness issue is the length of time it takes people to actually get to a contact center agent. And last year we had some very challenging situations relative to our staffing levels there, and our wait times, as I've been reporting to you, were not nearly what we would like for them to be. We have been actively working at improving the speed of our training. As you can well imagine, the breadth of information that new agents coming on need to be aware of and able to utilize is enormous. And so we have a very extensive training program for those new employees coming into the organization. And we've adjusted some of our hiring practices to make better use of individuals when they first become available to us. We can only offer our training limited times during the year because of the length of time it takes. Someone can't come in 3 weeks into an 8-week program, for example, and catch up. It varies. We're making adjustments to how we train them, what we train them on, and how we release them to the general work floor. And so all of those are resulting in more confidence and more skilled agents when they take on full independent responsibilities. But we've also lost people in the past. We would recruit, we would offer, but we weren't offering a training class for another 3 weeks. And in the meantime, those individuals might find another job and take that job because they were looking for a more immediate paycheck. And we've adjusted our practices again so that we can bring them in and have them do meaningful work with us while we're waiting for their next training class to begin. That's been very successful for us. So we're working in many ways to improve our ability to keep our position staff and bring our staff up to speed so they're able to respond to questions faster, able to answer the phones faster. But it will continue to be a challenge point for us as members are asking more complex questions. Every time we make a push to encourage members for My CalSTRS registration, which we want to do, it generates additional calls relative to registration, which are the longest calls that we take, because some members are still technology challenged and it's a nice way to say it, and are requiring a lot of assistance in getting online. We're looking at what is the right servicing level for our members so that we're providing the right level of service without over-servicing them. And we recognize that we need to focus some attention on our ability to cut to the chase with some individuals because we could be their social interaction for the day and they have an unlimited amount of time to spend on the phone with us. And Michelle, I see you smile. I know that anytime you're dealing with the public who has an ear, may choose that as an opportunity to address all sorts of issues that we may not be able to assist them with. So we're working with our staff on ways to manage those calls to create greater efficiency in getting them the information that they need from us and not listen so much to their life stories. Although there's some aspects of that are reflected in their responses to our surveys that say, CalSTRS cares about members like me. So, you can't just cut them off, but right. So it's called right servicing. We are also in the beginning stages of seeking an outside consultant to come in and help us do an evaluation of our contact center to see if there are additional efficiencies that we can make before we move into new pension solution. Pension solution may, in fact, change many of the things that we do relative to the contact center, may create a new customer relationship management system for us, CRM, or some other aspects of that business. But there might be things that we can do in the meantime that would give us the ability to enhance the member experience with us and reduce the after-call work, because that is also taking more time for us. So
The Benefits and Services Committee would be able to hear about from the feedback about the call center. You said you're hiring a consultant to kind of do an
right, so
assessment,
I don't know what that scope is going to
Right.
ultimately look like, so I
Right.
don't know what kind of results we would get, but
Okay.
certainly I can keep you apprised of the
Yeah,
fact that they're here, they're helping.
data.
And like with any good report, it may take a while for results from the implementation efforts to be realized in the organization, but that would be the intent, would be for us to improve the service that we're providing to members through that vehicle.
That sounds like a really good
And then
idea.
another area where it's difficult sometimes for people to get to us on a time frame that meets their need is in our benefits counseling program, and we are opening additional member service centers in order to make our services a little easier for members to get to, make locations more convenient for them to reach. But also we know that during peak retirement periods, we want to focus our energy and attention on individuals who are applying for retirement or within retirement age, and less energy on individuals who may have just a curiosity need for information. And so they might not be as satisfied with our speed to answer or our speed to provide services to them, but we're trying to manage that as well.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, so Ed and Peggy, committee input for this next year.
I'll start. I just want to give you just an update on the transition of our record-keeping services for Pension 2. We're meeting every week with Voya and with TIACREF as necessary, and as well as meeting in a separate meeting with Voya and LA Unified to transition the record-keeping from TIACREF to Voya. Voya is
People of Voya, for folks not
Voya
not remember
used
what
to be
that is.
ING, but now they're called Voya. Although you will probably never see the word Voya in any of our material around Pension 2 because it'll just be so far behind the scenes. They've been really great to work with. So far it's been very successful working with Voya. And at this point, we're hoping to have a transition completed in November. But I'll certainly keep you updated as we get closer to that, and probably maybe at the February meeting, be able to show you specifically what everything looks like after everything's transitioned and stabilized. But we're still working through all the issues around transition from one record keeper to another. Be happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions? Nope, I don't see any. Any?
I was confused, Madam Chair. Are we talking about the
So-
work plan, or are we talking
Right,
about the
sorry.
DCEO report?
I thought it was
Because
the
I thought we
DCO
were looking at
report.
item 5, but
I'm
maybe I
sorry.
wasn't as clear, but I was happy to hear about what you were
Okay.
sharing. It's helpful.
So in
But I'm
item
looking at
5
item 5, which
Okay.
is our
Never
committee
mind.
input.
Ignore
What
all
were you?
that.
What item were you on, Ed?
I was on item
Were you just
6.
on Ed's item?
No, I was on DCO report.
So let's go to 5.
Okay.
And so thank you, Peggy. I didn't
Thank you,
want to,
Peggy.
so thank you for. So committee input for this next work plan, which Dana is transitioning into.
So I can just say that we really tried to pare down the number of issues that we're bringing to the Benefits and Services Committee. What you see here are things that require business decisions from you or action from you, in addition to the normal reporting responsibilities that we have. Certainly, if there are any additional issues that you want us to bring forward, we can.
So going to the part-time faculty issues and having updates, they're going to be meeting every October.
Right.
Can we do that report an update on that meeting sooner
Yeah, we can do that in
than
April.
instead of June. I mean, June's 8 months.
Sure.
April 6th. It seems like at least we should have that by
Certainly.
April.
Yeah, we can do that.
I would note one other change that we're making, and that is we're doing an update on the compensation review unit now on an annual basis, since that is now part of routine work.
Okay.
It's not a pilot project for us anymore, and so we'll be making an annual report
In
on that
June.
activity in
Okay.
June.
Great. Anything else, Ed, on that particular item?
No,
Are you okay? We've done that? Okay.
and I have nothing more to add on the other item either.
You have nothing more to add on item 6? Okay, so Peggy, do you have any other?
I have nothing to add for that
Okay,
item.
excellent. So, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Joy, I didn't even see you there, sorry. Go ahead.
So we talked a little bit about the sort of feedback on the call center when we were talking about the satisfaction survey. Is that something that might be incorporated into one of the items that's currently on the work plan, or?
Since I don't know the timing and I don't know the length of that, I'd be hesitant to put it on here at this point. Certainly, if I get results, I can either present it in the DCEO report, or we can, with the chair's indulgence, add an additional item to the agenda for any given meeting.
Perfect, okay.
Thanks, Joy. Great. Okay, so we have item 7, a review for information requests, and I believe we have several rolling, so do you want to review them?
One of the ones that I had was a review of the low data that was, Jack mentioned earlier that we presented.
Is your mic on, Roland? I can't hear you very well, I'm sorry.
There was a request for information about the K through 12 community college, I guess, the low data information.
Doing the demographic.
Demographics.
It was demographic information, basically the breakout of our if I may, breakout of our membership, K through 12, community college, full-time, part-time. It would be interesting for us to kind of just see that breakout.
I think you'll be
first.
surprised at some of the difference in retirement patterns. Or
I can only imagine. I would
So
imagine there
it'd be
might
good
be.
to look a little deeper into the membership. We haven't done that with you before, I don't think.
Dana?
Are we able,
Oh, hang on. There we go.
are we able to capture freeway flyers with that?
Yeah, we can identify people who have multiple employers in the data.
That would be very
I
interesting.
know,
Yeah.
like multiple, I don't know if this is possible, but multiple campuses, how many? I mean, I know personally of, part-timers who are literally like 7 districts, and it's, I don't know how they do that. I don't know what I think about that, but that's out there. So it'd be interesting if that's possible, Ed. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
we
that is-
can't, we can identify people who work for multiple districts. We can't identify people who work for multiple campuses within a district because it's all reported by the district itself. So if somebody,
LA or Los Rios.
Right.
Or
yes,
San Diego.
exactly.
There's bigger districts that, yeah.
But still, there's
but
a
still
few
you-
thousand of them who have worked for different
Districts.
different community college
Different
districts at
districts.
one time.
Great. Graham?
It also won't capture the ones that work for a CSU campus and community college, and I know several people
Right.
in that
The
situation.
CSU is not in our. Great. Any other, I think in terms of information requests, I just know that, like as Joy mentioned, somehow in the notes, having a follow-up at some point with the call center and the timeless issue, just however Peggy deems appropriate with the new chair and vice chair of benefits and services. I just want to make sure we follow up on that. Great. Anything else? Anything else you have, Roland? We're good? All right. So item 8 is the draft agenda for the next committee meeting, which I believe is in September. Comments? Questions? Great. All right. And then opportunities for statements from the public. I don't see anyone at the microphone, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn benefits and services.